Hey everybody, it's Dr. Cruz. I'm the author of Maximize Your Superpowers and the creator of Heal into Higher Consciousness. Let me tell you a secret. The solution to just about every problem you're ever going to have in life is to get into a higher state of consciousness. All right, that's the big secret. All right, and so one of the elements of a higher state of consciousness is having top tier goals. I want to encourage you to begin to control the focus of your mind, and you want to begin to focus on top tier goals, because how many of you know that there is like a limitless amount of things that are trying to get your attention all day, every day? And so we have to have a great deal of self-mastery, and that's the topic for today, self-mastery. Because when you have self-mastery, you have self-control, you have the ability to direct your focus, right? And so the definition of self-mastery is technically self-control, the ability to exert your will strongly against your impulses, right? And this is coming from the part of the brain that is a lower functioning part of the brain. So our brain has an instinctual mind, an emotional mind, and then a logical mind. But your instinctual mind activates first, and then your emotional mind. And those two together are considered your subconscious mind. And once those things are activated, your brain just begins to do what it does, right? And so we need to learn to train our brain to be under our control, which is not usually what's happening. Usually what's happening is that instinctual and that emotional mind activate, and depending on your level of self-awareness, you might have a short retractable time from when your subconscious activates and your logical mind supersedes it, which is ideal. You want your logical mind to jump in and say, whoa, let me slow down, because the instinctual mind and the emotional mind are reactionary. Your logical mind is rational, it's reasoning, it's higher functioning, it's an executive part of the brain. It's where your willpower comes from, right? And so you want your logical mind to be more in control than your instinctual or your emotional mind. Now, your emotions are very important. They inform you of many things, but you don't want them running the show. And you certainly don't want to make decisions from just your emotional mind. You want to seek information from your emotional mind, but you want to use your logical mind to have the self-control or to make the decisions. All right. So with these top tier goals today being specifically self-mastery, there are some challenges that we have as human beings. And the first challenge I have here written down is that our instinctual and our emotional minds activate before our logical mind. So that's basically what I was just telling you, right? And so we want to subjugate and get our subconscious mind under control. And what you want to learn to do is become the observer. So you want to get a glimpse of yourself when your instinctual, your emotional mind is activated. Try to set the intention to get a glimpse of yourself, in retrospect and self-reflection, or even feedback from other people that you trust will give you honest feedback. And you want to take that information and ask yourself, is the way I was acting serving my higher good toward my purpose and calling and my ideal self-actualized self? Or is the way I was reacting and behaving really working against me? Is it keeping me a low functioning human being when my desire is to be a higher functioning human being, right? So I want to encourage you all to set the intention to become a higher functioning human being. When you're a higher functioning human being, your instincts and your emotional mind don't dominate as much, right? So if you see somebody out in the world who's just out of control, they're screaming or overreacting or just really living or behaving from their impulses, then you know they're in their lower functioning mind. That's the instincts and the emotions. They haven't learned to mature enough to have their logical mind subjugate that subconscious mind. All right. So we want to learn to become the observer, to give people the benefit of the doubt. Don't get offended about every little thing in life, right? We want to subjugate those limiting thoughts and those subconscious emotions of offense and feeling disrespected. You know, you can observe that you feel disrespected and not react. And that's the goal, right? That's the goal, not to react. You want to respond logically. But that means we have to wait until the instinctual and the emotional mind calm down. So if you feel yourself getting enraged or something like that, you want to gain a greater sense of self-awareness of yourself so you can catch it either before it happens or while it's happening. And you can calm it down through breath work. Breath work, meditation, visualization, hypnosis, but start with breath work because it's the exhale. If you exhale longer than you inhale, that's going to shift you from a sympathetic response, which is stress, into a parasympathetic response, which is rest and relaxation, right? That comes from the exhale. That's why doing breath work is so important, especially for self-mastery. All right? So we want to learn to be the observer, to give people the benefit of the doubt, to surrender and allow, right? So, you know, when we're in the ocean and we got this big wave coming at us, we're not going to fight the wave, right? We're going to surrender and allow that wave to kind of take us where it's taking us. And then we want to, you know, just accept that this is the moment so that I'm not panicking and I lean into it. And then when the moment's right, I can redirect myself, right? And it's the same thing when you interact with people. If you got a big wave that's coming at you, let's say somebody's overreacting, your boss is yelling at you, somebody in a car is screaming at you, whatever the case is, don't react to that. Just observe what's happening. This is self-mastery. We want to gain mastery over our instinctual and emotional minds. So while the other person is overreacting, we're observing, we're detaching, we are giving the person the benefit of the doubt. Obviously something's going on. Maybe they're in trouble, maybe they're immature, maybe their brain is in a process of thinking it's in danger. Whatever the case is for the other person overreacting, we don't want to join them. We want to surrender and allow, accept that this is the moment that's happening so that we can, when the moment's right, redirect the conversation or redirect our physical self to get out of harm's way, whatever the situation calls for, right? We also want to shift into acceptance, be more intelligent than the other person, right? By using your logical mind, which is being rational, reasoning, using your abstract thinking, your willpower. And you want to shift into a higher functioning ability, which is basically to respond and not react, right? So always kind of anchor yourself in, I want to be a higher functioning person, not a lower functioning person. If you can create that identity for yourself and really kind of sit in that, then you will kind of prompt yourself and you'll catch yourself anytime you're responding or reacting from your lower functioning mind, anytime you're getting offended or you're getting a little irate or your voice is getting raised or you're screaming or yelling or getting ready to throw something or punch a wall, whatever the case is, flatten a tire, harm someone, whatever the case is. If you practice observing yourself and doing that self-reflection and doing that breath work, in time you'll be able to catch yourself and use that higher functioning brain to subjugate your lower brain so that you have self-mastery. All right? So that's challenge number 1 that I wanted to highlight. Challenge number 2 is that our habits and our personality were predominantly programmed in childhood. And so we were developed in childhood through exposure and repetition. So our parents, our traditions, our culture, our environment, all of that from birth up till the age of 25, when our logical mind is finally fully developed, they say, we're predominantly interpreting our existence and everything that we're involved in through our emotional mind, because our logical mind hasn't fully developed yet. And even when it gets fully developed at age 25, we may not have experience really using our logical mind yet. So it's really important that you understand a challenge for self-mastery is not only number one, which is our instinctual and emotional mind activate first, but it's number two, that our habits and our personalities were programmed and developed from birth to, let's say, 25, right? But predominantly in childhood, birth to 7 is a very significant time period when we're in a natural state of trance and hypnosis, where we're being programmed. Everything coming in is developing the connections in our brain to give us a frame of reference of the external world and how we interpret it, right? And so we interpret it through our emotional mind, which is not ideal. But that's all we had when we were younger. We didn't have the logical mind. So this is why there's this big situation with people where they may be emotionally stunted, emotionally undeveloped, emotionally immature, because predominantly that's all they had. And if no one ever intervened when they were a teenager and started teaching them, or even younger, that, hey, I want you to start thinking about something logically, like don't just react to people. So if we're not taught how to use our logical mind, we could certainly go a very long time, if not forever, without using that part of our brain. All right, so keep in mind you want to reprogram your old habits. And you do that predominantly through hypnosis and repetition, okay? Number 3 is everyone is egoic. Everyone is egoic because we come from this instinctual mind, right? Our ego is developed in childhood to protect us, right? And so the ego is there, and thus we want to be heard and we want to be validated. And so when you understand the interactions between people, think about the last time you had like a heated discussion or an argument or something like that. You're trying to make your point and the other person's trying to make their point, because we're all egoic fundamentally, right? We can learn through higher consciousness how to subjugate our desire to be heard or validated, because once you become like a higher functioning person, you don't need that low level validation anymore, especially when you evolve into your spiritual identity and really ground yourself in knowing who you are and whose you are and how you relate to the bigger picture of the universe and all this kind of thing. Those kind of primal and survival needs kind of dissipate because we evolve beyond them. Does that make sense? So with understanding that everyone is egoic initially, because our subconscious mind also, being that it activates first, it takes a minute for our logical mind, if we've been taught, to activate and kind of reorganize how our brain is working in that moment. So understanding that we all want to be heard and validated and to feel like we're right, because one of the lower functioning handicaps that we have is we get very offended. We get very offended very quickly. And it's an underdeveloped part of our identity, right? If I get offended, it's because I'm not secure enough in who I am. So you want to really root yourself in the security of who you are. And that means you have to develop more on a spiritual identity. Because once you're anchored in your spiritual identity, again, these other things won't affect you as much. Okay, so I have here, as we shift into a higher functioning mind, we want to shift out of the ego and into the spirit, where we can better understand the lower versus higher functioning part of our mind. We can also better understand the requirements of self-mastery, specifically seek to understand before being understood. Now, this is a higher functioning thought process. So if I'm in a heated debate, if I can have self-control, which is ultimately self-mastery, mastery of myself, right? My instinctual mind is not mastering me. My subconscious is not mastering me, but my logical mind and my consciousness and my spirituality is controlling me. It's mastering me. It's allowing me to be in control, right? And that's what you want for yourself. So when we have this kind of mentality and this intention, this desire to grow into that level of maturity, you want to lead with seeking to understand before being understood, because it doesn't make any sense for us to know that the underdeveloped mind is going to seek to react. And then if we in turn react to it, we're locking horns and we're not making progress. So the wiser person understands, like, hey, I don't need to be validated in this moment. I don't need to be right in this moment. I can let this person just have their time, have the moment to talk about whatever it is, express themselves, yell, whatever it is, and I can just stand back and observe. That my self-esteem is not, it's not vulnerable right now. My self-esteem is not at, it's not center stage right now, because I'm anchored in my spirituality and my awareness of self and my desire for self-mastery. So I don't need to be validated. I already am validated, right? And so when you can get to that place where you feel like you're already validated, you don't need, while this person's going nuts, you don't need to exert anything in that moment to validate yourself, because it's an internal game. You've already done it, right? And so when you can get to that level, then you know that you are working in self-control and self-mastery. So here are some tips for self-mastery, and then I'm going to wrap this video up. Number one, I'm just going to go through them real quick. Number one, read books about how your brain works. Number two, seek self-knowledge and self-awareness. Like, really intentionally seek self-knowledge and self-awareness. It's got to be intentional, because if we're not intentional about something, then guess what part of our brain is running the show? It's our subconscious. But once we become intentional, we're using our intelligent brain, right? So it's your intention to do X, Y, and Z that's going to allow you to evolve into higher functioning mentality, becoming more intelligent, becoming more in self-control, having greater self-mastery, and eventually self-actualizing, which is ideally what we all want to do. We just may not have learned that yet, right? But that's the goal. We want to self-actualize through self-mastery, okay? All right, number three, tip for self-mastery. Decide to be a higher functioning person. Just decide. I want to be a higher functioning person. I remember when Jennifer Lopez was interviewed in Redbook once, she said, I just wanted to be a person of excellence. And as soon as I saw that, I gravitated to that. I was like, yeah, me too. I want to be a person of excellence. So it's not perfection. It's just a desire to be excellent in nature, right? And once I intended that, once it was like in my subconscious and I agreed with it emotionally, then it became very natural. You know, it's just who I am. You know what I mean? So decide to be a higher functioning person and not a lower functioning person, and learn the difference. What is low functioning? What is high functioning? So just very briefly, low functioning is getting offended. It's your instinctual and emotional mind activating. It's you coming from an instinct or an emotional place of survival, of fear. Anything lower functioning is survival driven, right? And anything higher functioning is more thought through. You're thinking it through, you're analyzing, you're assessing, you're strategizing, you are thinking long term, you're playing chess, not checkers. A higher functioning person is in control, they're an observer, they understand the laws of nature and the laws of the universe, and they're very goal oriented. They have an awareness of who they want to become, their identity. They're spiritually grounded, things of that nature, okay? But you can do your own research on higher versus lower functioning. Also, lower functioning, there's a lot of self-soothing behaviors, smoking, drinking, having a lot of sex, partying, maybe gambling, getting your sense of identity through like overworking or trying to people please and things of that nature. So there's so much that is encompassing of the lower functioning mind. So you really want to learn about that, okay? All right, number 4, create a morning routine that will allow you to get and stay in control of yourself. So some of the things, so here's the the gist of the morning routine. Like, we hear a lot about the morning routine, but the purpose of the morning routine is so that you take the first moments of your morning, whether it's the first 15 minutes or the first 30 or the first 2 hours, and you are in control logically. You are using your logical mind to navigate that time period so that you can get your mind and heart into coherence, and that you can get aligned so that you are focused and purposeful for those however long minutes you have, right? So here are some things you want to include. You want to include breath work. So as soon as you wake up, you begin to start waking up, your eyes are opening. Try not to wake up too fast. Just stay in that sleep-wake state, right? That's a hypnotic state. You are more suggestible in that time period. So you want to do your breath work to get into coherence. Start doing a little meditation or visualization. You can also do hypnosis in the morning or right before you go to bed. Those are the ideal times. And then after you do whatever work you're doing with that, if you visualize, you want to visualize how you want your day to go, what you want to achieve, how you want to interact with people, what kind of person you want to be that day. I want to be more in self-control. I don't want to get offended. And so you begin to visualize yourself doing that kind of stuff. And what it does is it's programming your mind, right? And then maybe you want to incorporate journaling, having breakfast, doing a workout. But whatever you do in that morning routine, this is your time you're dedicating to the betterment of you. Because once you check your phone or your email, you go to work or you get in your car, now all these other things externally of you are trying to control your focus. And so you've kind of lost mastery over self. All right, create your weekly schedule on Sunday. This way, we're talking about self-mastery, right? So if I'm going to master myself, I want to think ahead, right? Okay, what are the things I want to focus on during the week? When am I going to work out? When am I going to eat? When am I going to sleep? When am I having my meetings? When am I doing my journaling? Self-mastery requires being present, fully present. And so when you're making your schedule on Sunday, you're fully present and you're trying to project into the week, right? So it's really great. I do it all the time. Okay. Number 6, and this is the last one. Understand that 95% of how people behave is controlled by their subconscious mind. So 95% of how you show up every day is controlled by your subconscious mind, because it's a program, right? So every morning we wake up, we brush our teeth, we get ready, whatever we're doing, we get in the car, we drive to work. All that's a program. We don't have to consciously think about that because we've been doing it every day for X amount of period of time in our life. So just remember that 95% of how other people are showing up is based on their subconscious programming. So when you're talking to someone, you're dealing with someone, you think you're talking to what you see, but you're not. You're talking to their subconscious mind. So you could say something or they could smell something and their subconscious get triggered, and now their impulses want to react, right? And so when you see that in someone else, understand that's what part of their brain is activated. So you can just stay in your self-control, be self-mastered, and allow the moment to play itself out, right? So this is super important to understand. Also, so learn to be the observer of yourself and of other people. Get a glimpse and ask. Get a glimpse of yourself and ask other people. I think we talked about this earlier. Ask other people that are qualified to judge you and say, hey, tell me what you think about, where I could improve in my personality, right? And learn to take criticism, because there's a difference between malicious criticism and then, just useful criticism, right? Like intentional criticism or and criticism that has the intention of helping you to improve, right? So when I give feedback to my daughter, she can always know I'm never malicious about it. My intention is to give her this feedback so she can improve. And I feel the same way when she gives me feedback. I'm like, okay, this is my daughter. I trust her more than anyone in the world. And so I know that she's trying to help me improve. All right. And so lastly, we're talking about getting a glimpse so you can learn about your blind spots. That's very important. We all have blind spots and we don't really know what they are. Have a desire to regulate yourself. If if you want to have self-mastery, you got to regulate yourself, right? So that you may need some therapy work, right? In therapy, we help people learn how to self-regulate. Predominantly, you want to go to your breath work and your meditation. Like those are, and your hypnosis. Those are the top three, right? Get in control of you and be the driver in your life, not the passenger. You want to be self-mastery. You want to be in self-mastery. You want to exhibit self-mastery. You want to learn habitually, just kind of subjugate your instinctual impulses so that you can master yourself. And when you begin to do that, like life just takes on a different feel. It's a whole different ball game. Now we're still human. Our subconscious is still gonna react. But the difference is when we are a higher functioning person, we notice it quicker and then we can reroute our thinking process, right? So if someone says something to me and I emotionally react, but I've had the practice of self-awareness and self-reflection, then I can get a glimpse of myself quicker, or I'm more self-aware of my emotions, and so I can stop it before I lose control, right? And that's the difference between someone who does the work and someone who doesn't, because when they lose control, their subconscious mind has taken over for, could be 15, 20, 30 minutes, could be all day long. Have you ever been upset about something all day long? That means your subconscious mind is in control, right? And so you want to journal your emotions out. You want to go back to your spiritual work, go to your spiritual devotion book. You want to go to a therapist, get into an environment where you can express yourself. Sometimes we don't have anybody to do that with, so we got to just go to the journal, or you can record it in your phone or take a walk, right? But whatever you do, have the intention to have self-mastery. All right? All right, I'm Dr. Cruz, and this was a discussion on having top-tier goals, and self-mastery is just one of many top-tier goals. But be a person of excellence was focused on top-tier goals, so you're not distracted by gossip, self-soothing, bad behaviors, distractions, things that waste our time. We're not distracted by our emotions, or not easily put into depression, things of that nature. When you're a high functioning person focused on top tier goals, all this lower functioning stuff doesn't control us as much. All right. I'm Dr. Cruz, again, author of Maximize Your Superpowers. You can get a free copy at capricruz.com, and you can also join my coaching program called Heal into Higher Consciousness. Higher consciousness is the answer to everything. All right, you guys, have a great one. Bye-bye.